Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Jason Deitch, and I want to welcome you to the Life Vision Project. This is, I think, a really important program, project, seminar, online evolution of building community around the idea of your life vision. And of course, we are here with my great friend, mentor, icon of our profession, Dr. Guy Riekeman. Dr. Riekeman, thanks so much for taking time out of what I know to be your very busy schedule to join us here today for a few minutes.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And while this is always a priority, as soon as we get completed, I need to go watch the Life men's and women's basketball game tonight. So.
Absolutely. Go Life. So what I want to talk about here, this is the first in a whole series for the Life Vision Project. So let's really just sort of start the conversation of what it means to have a life vision. What is that, and what is it really from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it probably comes back to some passion at some particular point that you have in life that's molded by a series of circumstances. I can do mine really simply. Floating around on college campuses in the 1960s, questioning all sorts of authority. The Vietnam War was going on, and hanging out with a bunch of people, which was not unusual at the time, that thought they could change the world. And what motivated me was the idea of changing the world, at least the healthcare world. That this whole notion of waiting till people get sick and then treating them with expensive technology was useless, that it had to be about human potential and human consciousness. And so I have to tell you, that hasn't changed for me one iota since the 1960s. The only thing that changed is we're doing it now in Armani suits instead of bell bottoms. I have resources today to actually have impact, where before you had a lot of energy, but no resources to have any impact. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to listen to you. But my motivation hasn't changed one iota, which is absolutely to alter people's consciousness towards realizing their full potential and the aspect of healthcare that comes into that.
So let's talk about...
After that, by the way.
Pardon?
While some things were sort of congruent and happening at the same time, it wasn't that I got into chiropractic and then had that notion. I wanted to change the world long before I ever got into chiropractic.
Yeah.
So when I heard Reggie Gold in 1969, 1970 actually, in an old dark auditorium in Davenport, Iowa, where we went because one of our instructors had given us some extra credit points to go listen to this wacky guy speak. And I didn't even go because I knew anything about Reggie or had any interest. I was getting ready to leave Palmer after 3 months and go to DePaul and play my second year of basketball. And went to the auditorium not because we were interested in Reggie, but if you know anything about Davenport, there was nothing better to do in Davenport, Iowa than go listen to a guy in an old dark auditorium one night. I'm not sure that's changed even that much to this day. But anyway, we sat there, and 3 hours into Reggie's 4-hour presentation, and I can't even tell you what he said. But 3 hours into it, I said, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. This is the model or the mechanism I can use to accomplish what I want to get accomplished.
I love it. I love it. And those are such important distinctions. There are chiropractic students, chiropractors who are going to be watching this. How do they identify? Some know their life vision. Others don't even understand what the concept is all about. How do they identify their purpose, their equivalent of a life vision? How do they know if that's what it is, or if they're just listening to, what they should do, or what they think they should do, or what they think is going to make the most amount of money, or so on and so forth? How do you know this is my thing?
Yeah. I've watched and I've lectured about this over the years, but there are people that believe that if they get everything organized just right in their life, that something magical is going to come along and grab them. If I get the right grades and get married to the right person, or get the right degree and open up in the right place and, say the right things, etc., then all of a sudden something's going to consume me. So they're kind of waiting for something to come along and they grab onto it. I've never seen that happen. I think you have to find some little seed of something that stimulates you one day, and then you grab onto it, and the deeper the commitment you have to it, the more passionate you become about it. In other words, I don't think you get passionate about something and then the commitment grows out of the passion. I think you have to commit to something, and the deeper you commit to it, then you have more passion. It's kind of that old line from the 60s, since we're reminiscing here, from Kahlil Gibran, that talked about plowing a field. And the deeper you plow, the harder it is, and the deeper the furrow when you're plowing. But the deeper the furrow not only allows you to have greater joy, it also causes you to have greater pain. Because once you open up that door to feelings, whatever level you open them up, you get them to that level, that degree, on both ends of the scale. No one's going to make it through life without having disappointment and disloyalty from someone, or pain and suffering and disappointment and depression and all those kinds of things. It's only a matter of degree. But if you're trying to stop those bad things from happening by shutting down your emotions, then on the other side is you're shutting down the joy, the happiness, when the accomplishments come, the pride, all of those kinds of things that come with it. So I think you have to you say, this is it. This is where I'm putting my stake. I'm committed to this. And then the deeper the furrow, the more commitment you make to it, the more joy and the more disappointment you're going to have in that process along the way.
I love that. One of his quotes from the prophet was, work is love made visible.
Yes.
I love that reference. And I love the distinction you're making, and I hope everybody's really hearing this, because I think we live in a culture, both in the profession and out in the world, that says, well, let me try this and see if it works. And if it does, then I'll get fully behind it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it doesn't work that way. You have to get totally committed to it. I remember, and even though you know these lessons, they keep coming up and slapping you in the face. I remember when, and I've talked about this in seminars for years, when I burnt out. I was doing 108 seminars a year. I was teaching courses at the time at Sherman, was doing fundraising for them. Joe Felicia and I had put together Renaissance. We were doing all these things. And one day I just decided I'm burnt out. Had to do with a relationship that had fallen apart, a divorce, all of that. And I just dropped out and hung out on a beach for 4 years in Southern California. And of course, the joke, the punchline of all of that, even though that's a true story, is people that tell you get tired of that after a while, it's a lie. So I didn't come off the beach because the beach was bad. It's just that it was that way of, again, the furrow covering it up. So every day had no great pain, no great joy, no great anything, right? It was just, total narcissism, just enjoying the beach and that's it. And one day I woke up and said, I can't do this. I can't get to the end of my life and look back at this and say this had any value. It was so incongruent with that thing about wanting to change the world that those things conflicted with me once I got healed up a little bit. But I remember after that, I'd go, okay, I'm going to get back in the game. And 1 week I'd be really up, and then one challenge would come along, and I'd go, oh, screw it, and go back down. Then the next week I'd go back up. One challenge would come along, screw it, I'm not willing to do this. And it was just this up and down, getting nowhere. And at some point you just have to, and if you're interested, I can tell you what it was for me, but at some point you just have to draw the line and say, I'm doing this. I don't care about the ups and downs. This is it. This is what it's going to look like. This is how I'm going to live my life.
I am interested, so tell us, please.
Well, a friend of mine drugged me from L.A., where I was living on the beach, to San Diego to hear Werner Erhard, the Est guy, right, back at the height of Est. Werner Erhard in a stadium. There were about 5,000 people there. No technology. It was Werner and a big chalkboard in front of 5,000 people. And he just started talking about issues having to do with integrity and commitment and those kinds of issues. And I walked out of the room and said, "That's it. I gotta do this, and it doesn't matter what the ups and downs are."
What is the message to our profession for those that are sort of straddling this almost schizophrenic mindset that I've got to do what I've got to do to make the numbers. I got a mortgage. I got a lifestyle. I got to, play the insurance game. And yet, I got to attract patients for symptoms which is for some people just incongruent with their passion, and yet knowing they've got a core purpose, passion, bigger vision of what this is all about. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, I think there's two quotes that come to mind. One is from the Bible, where it says, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and render to God the things that are God." So one is you have to know where your heart is and what your soul is, and make sure that if you feel like you're giving away a piece of your soul when you do something, then don't do it. You follow me? That doesn't belong to Caesar. Your your soul belongs to you, belongs to God, so to speak. On the other hand, we live in a world where Caesar, right? There's insurance issues that have to come. You got to fill out the form right if you don't want to go to jail. If you don't want to have them come in and audit you and do all of those kinds of things. I've never found that necessarily compromising my values as a human being. Let's face it. In the world today, we have 1 foot in the big idea and 1 foot in the world. And those two things sometimes may not feel that they're congruent with each other, but they don't have to be conflicting with each other either. And I think you have to take a long-term view of it. At the end of your life, at the end of your practice, whatever the case may be, you have to look back and say, did I move the whole system closer to the big idea? And if you did, nobody ever said we were all going to get to the promised land. You follow me? Where everything's going to be perfect. In fact, to me, that's kind of boring, to be honest with you. It's the fight. It's getting up every day. It's bringing a person in that comes in that other world, and regardless of whether they're walking with insurance or something else, getting them to see what's possible inside of themselves, which is my original thing, how they can maximize that and use chiropractic to get that done. And as long as I don't have to compromise my integrity, if they have insurance and they want to use it, fine. But don't ask me to put down false interpretations, alter diagnoses to get a few more visits out of them, etc. Does that make sense?
It makes
Because then I would
sense.
be altering my soul to do that.
That makes perfect sense. I want to go into more in future modules with you. But what I want to ask you to do is this is the first of a whole series with a lot of great friends and experts who I think collectively this will be, I really believe, a groundbreaking project, both in what we're doing here online and then, having everybody come to the Life Vision program in Atlanta coming up. So let me, close this first segment by asking you simply more about your life vision today and in the future, and what you believe is possible if 1,000 or more passionate chiropractors came together and started congregating, connecting, and really owning this process of getting clear with what their life vision is, what their purpose is, and coming together to work together. What do you think the possibilities there are?
Well, I mean, if you look at all the contemporary research going back to how President Obama got elected, it was basically 1,000 people that came together. And I'm going to add a couple of things to your comments, but it's 1,000 people that came together around a vision, but they knew in this case, they were skilled in how to use the technology in this case in order to get his message out, get him elected, all of those kinds of things. You follow me? So I think it's more than having vision, and it's more than getting together, and it's more than having a great time. It's what is our content? What is the research? What are the skill sets we have to develop? I'll give you two examples. One of the people that's speaking is my friend Garrett Gunderson, who's not a chiropractor, right? He deals with money, but he's found a way, given our conversation before about how do you deal with money and render to Caesar the things that are Caesar and yet have this other foot in the big idea. And of course, his whole thing is the money that you have, you invest in your sole purpose, your SOUL. You don't invest in commodities and have a portfolio that always contains drug research and drug company money in it. You follow me? Because then you're actually supporting people who are trying to destroy you and fight you. So can you have money? Yes, you should have a lot of money for the services you provide. And how can you then utilize that to advance your sole purpose? in life? How do you invest in yourself rather than invest in a drug company somewhere? So, if we can get 1,000 people not only to have a vision, but 1,000 people to have the resources, and 1,000 people to get together and do the work, right? Not just come to a weekend rah-rah session. Get together and do the work in research, in politics, join state associations, get on boards, become effective, always a better practitioner for what you do. And I know this will sit wrong with a lot of people that are probably listening to this, but I go to these chiropractic seminars and I see adjusting tables out in the lobby and people jumping off and on the tables, and chiropractors that have never even seen these people before going up and down their spines, and I'm going, is that really, on a clinical level, for example, the way we're going to advance our profession? So I think what I'm hoping that Life Vision becomes is something much greater than just finding an internal fountain. We have to do that, of course, and being committed to that. But then are we really willing to do the work? One last thing, and hopefully not getting too long with this. I read, like almost every one of the viewers watching this, all the books on how to be successful, like Tony Robbins, Stephen Covey, Napoleon Hill. You go down the line, and seemingly on the surface, when you read their books, they all have sort of different formulas. But if you read in between the lines, they all have something in common. And one of those things, for example, is that if you want to be successful in life, you got to get up every day, you got to go to work, and you got to work really, really hard. I mean, like really, really hard. And you go to work every day. Tony Robbins doesn't just fly out on a weekend and do a couple of raps and then go to the beach. You follow me? Stephen Covey didn't do that. These people got up every day with passion and went to work on the good days and the bad days, and they worked really, really hard to advance their ideas and their principles. And they did it with effective communications, and they were skilled at what they do. So I'm hoping that Life Vision is more than just a purpose seminar. It's more than just a vision seminar. I hope it's a skills seminar where people really hone their skills on all of these levels and then make commitments to go get into the real world and carry our message there.
I love it.
Give us 1,000 of those people, we'll change the world. We'll change healthcare. Well,
and that's what the Life Vision Project is. So let me close this particular module by simply saying thank you for being here. Thanks for being a part of this. That you've heard it. That is what this is all about, is getting involved, getting connected, getting clear on the inside, being passionate, but then going to the next level and learning what's the work to do and how do I become great at it? How do I even master it? And do the work and make your life committed, not just to ease and pleasure, and if it doesn't feel good, I'll go do something else, but really, accepting that choppy waters are part of the process. That is part of the mission, and to be expected and embraced as they come along. You agree?
Yeah, if you want to find out what people are really committed to, find out where they're putting their money.
There you have it. So thank you for being part of this very first module. We look forward to seeing you in Atlanta at the upcoming Life Vision Project. Please watch all of these modules. You'll see everything from high-level philosophical conversation to spiritual conversation, as well as the nuts and bolts of what to do and how to be greater at what you're doing in your practice each and every day. And Dr. Riekeman, I agree with you. Thank you, Guy, for your vision, all you've done, using those resources in ways that I think is going to not only elevate our profession, but really change the face of healthcare and humanity for decades to come. As BJ said, we never know how far-reaching something we may think, say, or do today will affect the lives of millions. Tomorrow, I will give you the opportunity for closing comments and last words.
I think it's all summed up. We need to get together. Besides wanting to know what people are committed to, see where they put their time. So, let's get together at Life Vision, put our time and our money, our resources, our dreams together, and let's make a difference.
Let's make a difference. Welcome to the Life Vision Project. Thanks for watching.